Perfect. Welcome everyone. Good evening, good morning, Super Team Philippines. Today we're just going to be doing a quick workshop on Honeycomb Protocol. So what is Honeycomb Protocol? Well, we simplify Solana game development. So we have a set of SDKs that enable game studios and indie game developers to take advantage of Web3 using generalized state compression to dramatically reduce fees and streamline development with a single client. So these are like the three main features. The SDK is to make it as easy as possible to reduce the complexity of Web3 development. So you can start integrating Web3 directly into your games. And then state compression makes it from 500 to 2000x cheaper. So a huge dramatic decrease in on-chain costs. And we hope that this also increases like accessibility for developers all around the world. And then finally, interoperable programs, having just a very easy to use developer experience. And we'll be going into like all the modules and talking about how, yeah, everything works. So just before we get into each section here, I just want to go over like a high level overview. So we have these four different buckets, and each one is like a different category. So on the far left here, this is called Hive Control. This is where you initiate your project or game. In here, we also manage all of our player profiles. So you initiate a new user, a new profile, and then you can also enable the shadow signer. And we just made a post actually yesterday that talks a little bit about the shadow signer and introduces it. But essentially, what it's going to what it allows you to do is auto sign all transactions in the protocol that are flagged as non-financial or non-high risk. So, for example, like updating your player profile, that's a pretty low risk action. So with the shadow signer, now it just automatically does that. So like the user doesn't have to click sign every single time. And then we also manage our edge kit and our delegate authority, which just manages all the different programs in the game. Then we have our Nectar utility section. So this is like the on-chain primitives that we've discovered so far. For example, missions and staking, very common, common utilities we see right now. What we've discovered, and as we, discover more, we'll keep adding those on into this section. Then this third bucket here is the Asset Hub. So we have four different managers. And in the docs, Shoaib, our DevRel, will go into it after my section. But in the docs, it's not explicitly called out as managers. Like you'll see create a currency, create a crafting section with the resources. But essentially, these programs allows you to create a currency in game. Then you can have like a general store in your game that enables you maybe to buy some resources. Then those resources can be turned into like from an iron ore all the way into an iron sword, like through a recipe tree. And then that sword can get equipped to the character. And this is all happening on chain, and everything is in a compressed state. So all of the assets are compressed and all the transactions are compressed as well. So that we're able to achieve extremely low cost business logic. And the idea is maybe the player doesn't want to pay for all the fees. As the game developer or as the project owner, you can go ahead and pay for all the fees. So we actually even have that enabled. In the Hive control, there's the ability to have a vault where it just pays fees out of all the on-chain fees. And then finally, we have our guild kit. So allowing that whole stack to be done with a co-op gameplay within a party or like a guild. Everything is live on mainnet. We haven't released it publicly, but it is live on our local cluster called Honeynet. And we're on to mainnet right now, except the guild kit. So everything here except the guild kit is on mainnet, and we're currently testing. We're around, a little like 4 weeks out from a public launch, but yeah, everything is on mainnet and everything is right now public for Honeynet. So yeah, so the first section, this is Hive control. So we're just going to jump into each module very briefly here. So the Edge kit, this is our first section here, and it's our Edge client essentially. And this acts as like your gateway to Honeycomb protocol. It streamlines all the compressed transaction content creation. It allows us to send very, very low latency transactions. That's something we're really proud of. Being able to have, we can handle up to on the protocol 1000 TPS at a very low latency because everything is already deployed on our Edge client, which sits right next to our indexer and RPC. And then finally, we also can manage our shadow signer here. Next is our player profile. This is where all your user actions, preferences, statistics are stored on chain. It utilizes the Solana decentralized identifier. And currently, 1 million profiles. This slide is wrong. It's actually 1 million profiles is equal to around 6 SOL compressed. So about 30% less than that number there. So just to give you an idea of what type of costs we're looking at. Before compression, that cost was around 1,400 SOL for 1 million on-chain profiles, just to give an idea. And yeah, this is also directly on the L1. It's not using like a rollup. We're scaling directly on the L1, so it's vertical scaling. Now, next we have our shadow signer, and this automatically securely signs transactions for players. It works with our compression stack, and you have the ability to toggle this on and off during game development. And then the last item is our delegate authority. And this is just your directory of like all the program authorities that you're using, and they're being managed through this delegate authority. So this is just an example of a player profile. So I'm just gonna click that link there. So this is Pooks here. Pooks just launched their badges system, and I'm gonna go to Razorback's profile. So yeah, this is Razorback's profile. He's been collecting a bunch of NFTs. You can click on them, see the trades, etc. So here he has his Twitter linked up, his Discord linked up, his location. You can even export this profile by just profile link copy to clipboard, and then you can just like go to the browser, input it directly, and it'll pop right up. And then this is all the badges he has. So he holds a Pooks token for 10 days, then he gets these points, and this is his total points because he has 66 times 12 these batches, so he's earning 828 points a day. So this is all using Honeycomb player profiles as an example, and then our leaderboard is the leaderboard as well as on Honeycomb. Cool. So the next section is Nectar utilities. This is that second section in the modules. So here we have our quests, and you can do a lot like simple missions where you just send the NFT on a simple quest that's like some time-based quest, and then when you recall it, right, you unlock those rewards. But then you can also do like advanced missions. So this is like my favorite one, where it's like gamified missions. It's very then similar to how a quest system works in a game. And this allows us to have like these different levels. So when you unlock certain achievements, then you can go on these specific missions or quests. And yeah, so essentially you have like these linked missions. Then the last one that's still in development is a guild mission. We have this like concept called sub-DAOs in NFT culture. And sub-DAO is like, basically like a team of team with a specific trait on their NFT, right? So like imagine being able to do specific missions just for your sub-DAO, right? That's kind of the trend we're seeing as the evolution continues. So we're very excited about the guild mission, being able to do this like co-op gameplay. Next is the staking. So having idle rewards and yields in game, I'm sure many of us are familiar with it, familiar with staking. But what's really cool about Honeycomb staking is the vast number of settings. We worked on a lot of projects as engineering resources during the last cycle. So we saw almost every single different type of staking. So in Honeycomb, we brought all those settings in. For example, you can do age-based, quantity-based multipliers, as well as collection-based, creator-based, specific unique NFT multipliers, unique trait multipliers. Then you can combine multipliers together to create like more extreme scenarios, just to give an idea. But yeah, the options are endless. Then the last one is the loot boxes and raffle. This will have like an admin dashboard to manage all your in-game loot boxes, as well as gated NFTs or collection traits with that are maybe whitelist specific. And then customize with you can customize it with two types, so like raffle or wheel spin style loot boxes. This is also still in development, so yeah, not out yet. So really the only two things that are still in development is the loot boxes and then the guild kit, but everything else is available on HoneyNet. And then our asset hub. So on the far left here, we have our resource manager. So this lets you generate in-game assets as NFTs. We support multiple types of NFTs. We recommend you use the compressed NFTs as it's the lowest cost. But for example, maybe you want SFTs or programmable NFTs. If you were around a year ago, we had the whole fiasco with the royalty debate. So at that time, we had brought in support for programmable NFTs. Now it's not so much of a concern, but it could be again in the future. So just want to make sure we have that option available, right? Next is the marketplace. So allowing you to easily create a marketplace, deploy a marketplace in your game, as well as like customization of resources. So like decay, rarity, quality, variability, things you see in traditional games. And this is all also on chain. Then you have our character manager. So this allows, so we have two types of characters in a Honeycomb in Honeycomb protocol. So one is like you start the game and you have this like naked character that you can assemble using different like items that you maybe get in the game. So you get some skins, you can equip those skins and assemble it onto your NFT. So just like how you have in-game equipment loadout, that's what assembling is just called in Web3. So yeah, so you can either assemble your character with a naked character, or you can also bring in, like let's say you do an NFT mint on Tensor or Magic Eden, and now you have these characters like minted on a launch pad. We also have the ability to bring those characters into Honeycomb protocol. And what we do is we just wrap that NFT and then we issue a compressed NFT that then utilizes the full state compression stack. Then the last one is the characters are fully interoperable. It's integrated in all the Honeycomb programs. So you can like equip items, then you can send it on missions that are like trait specific. So like only if that item is equipped, you can go on that quest, right? Then the third one is our currency manager. So yeah, this is a very it uses token 2022. So you can have a lot of customizations with it. Maybe you want to have a permissioned token versus a permissionless. And for those that don't know, a permission token means that I can seize your tokens or I can move the tokens from wallet A to wallet B. Why would you want that, right? In the and on chain, why would you want that on Solana? Well, there's a lot of regulated markets out there. Specifically, like if you look at the real world assets market for like real estate in the US, then it's SEC regulated, right? As So those regulations might cause you to be a little bit more careful with how you release your in-game currencies. So it still acts and behaves as a normal token, except it's permission. So you cannot go to a DEX. It still shows up in your wallet, in your Phantom wallet as a normal token, just has these properties that makes it so that it's not permissionless. Which is great, yeah, for those regulated markets that I mentioned. Then we also have token wrapping. So let's say your game wants to use Bonk. We can wrap Bonk, we can pull it into the game and use it as the native currency. Then we have transfer hook, which allows these transfer controls. That's what I was talking about, the permission tokens. And then it's fully interoperable. It can be used within all the programs automatically once we have a currency. Last one is payment manager. So this allows you to manage payments, manage marketplaces, what's being bought and sold, etc., traded. So this is what we submitted to the Sandstorm hackathon back in I think it was February 2023. And what this is doing is we're creating this NFT minting experience using Honeycomb protocol. And I'm essentially putting all these different traits into my shopping cart and then purchasing all those traits, and then I'm minting the NFT. So it's one transaction to purchase all the traits, and then it's one transaction to assemble and mint that NFT. For some people might ask, like, how is that possible? Like, how can you do that in one transaction? Well, we're using lookup tables. So lookup tables on Solana had just been released, and this allowed us to execute this on one transaction. Now, as a developer, when you come into Honeycomb protocol, like you don't need to know about any of this, stuff that's happening in the backend. All you do is you use the SDK, you come in, it's just a few lines of code that you integrate, and you can do all of this, right? That's what our goal is to reduce the complexity of the Web3, and so that you can just like focus on your game, and yeah, build the best experience possible. The next one is BuzzKit. So this allows for, so this is coming soon. This is still in development. We're actively working on it, but just to give some high-level overview of what's to come. So our guild kit allows you to like have a hierarchy. So you can have like a guild leader with people underneath the guild leader. And then you can create sub-DAOs directly in your game that are like trait specific. And then, like for example, if you have if you're a monkey DAO with the sombrero trait, then you can join my guild essentially, right? And then we can play the game together. Maybe specific missions that are just for guilds, for example, right? And then you can share resources, etc. Then we're gonna have a guild chat where you can chat with the guild members. It's gonna be integrated into Discord. It's gonna have chat moderation features as well. Then we'll have our guild quests, which I was just mentioning, being able to go on different missions together. Just designing unique social experiments is our goal. Just some examples of the guild kit. This on the left side is Soul Patrol. This is like creating your guild name, description. You select your NFTs and then the guild chat. And then on the right side is our other. So these are both our reference implementations that we're going to be open sourcing very soon here that you can just fork these games and start building on top of. And you can always jump into our Discord and ask me any questions like, hey, can I get like early access to Soul Patrol, for example? I want to like start looking into the SDK. Feel free to ping me. And then on the right side here is our Ocean Explorers reference implementation. And this is allowing us to build a crew of NFTs and then be able to send those on missions. So yeah, now I'm going to give it over to my teammate, Shoaib, who is our DevRel engineer, and he is going to do a quick walkthrough of the documentation. Shoaib, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you great.
All right. Hello, everyone, and good evening. I'll be giving you a technical demonstration of everything that Karthik talked about just now. Let me just share my screen. Please let me know when you can see it.
Yep, can see it.
Let's just send this here now. All right. Let's just look at our documentation first, right? So like Karthik said, everything you do, it's going to start with Hive control, right? And what does Hive control do? It lets you manage your projects. For those of you who don't know what a project is in Honeycomb Protocol, it's basically an app. It can be a game, it can be an app. So let's look at how you would create a project, right? So basically, it's as easy as that. You would just use our Edge kit and getting started guide is here. You just want to set up your development environment. I'll be adding Rust as well as Unity and Godot here in the future, very near future, by the way. We're working on those SDKs. So this is how you would create a project. Let's just see what this code is doing. You would just name your project. You would tell us who the authority is, the person who owns the project and can make changes to it, uh, who the pair is. You usually don't need to specify this unless the pair is different from the authority. And then you would tell us what the profile data config looks like, right? So what are achievements? Don't you add those in the profile itself? So let's say you're designing an app, like Karthik said, Pooks, right? Pooks had achievements. You would first tell us all of the achievements your app can have right here. For example, you're designing a game, and the person first launches a game and then creates a character. You want this achievement to be named first character, right? You would first need to add this to the project that okay, first achievements is a thing, right? And then custom data fields pretty self-explanatory, but you would if you want some data fields in the profile that we don't provide by default, such as achievements, you would just add them here, and then we let you update profiles with NFT owned, maybe 10, 12, whatever value you want to set. All right, let's look at another powerful feature that Karthik talked about, which is delegates, right? Let's say you own the project, but you don't want to do every single thing there, right? You don't want to be dealing with every single thing. You don't want to be, maybe you want to create currencies, but you don't want to deal with missions, right? So you want someone else to create the missions. So you come here, you add a delegate, and you just give them whatever permission that you want, right? For example, this is currency manager, but if you wanted missions, you would just write nectar missions here and then specify the permission. You actually import the permissions from our Edge client. Um, so just to give you a bit of context, I can't demo this right now because our HoneyNet is undergoing maintenance. Otherwise, I would have demoed all of this working right now. So yeah, any wallet that you want to specify, right? If I owned a project and I wanted Karthik to manage currencies, right? I would just make this transaction, sign it, and Karthik would be able to manage currencies. He wouldn't be able to do anything else. He wouldn't be able to touch missions, staking. Even we're designing it so we're designing a GUI, a GUI, where we're making sure that he wouldn't even be able to see that what missions we have and everything if you don't want him to see those, right? Um, and then you can also modify the delegate authority. Like you want to take a permission away, you want to add permissions, of course you can do that. Um, let's look at users and profiles, right? So for those of you who are confused, a user is a universal account, right? And a profile is specific to each project. So you would need a user on Honeycomb before you can create a profile for your project, right? Um, and this is how you would create a new user on Honeycomb. And for those of you who are worried that you would have to send two transactions, first to create a user, you would create a profile. That's not the case. We have taken care of that. You can create both the user and the profile in a single transaction, right? And here's all of the profile info. Here's all of the user info. You can add socials. You can do all sorts of things. And again, it's very, very simplified. Um, let's go on to the characters, which Karthik just talked about. We have two methods. So wrapping would freeze the NFT and create a character. Assembling has two methods too. As- Um, sorry.
No, no, go on, go
You're
on, go on.
good.
All right. Um, so wrapping would freeze the NFT and issue a character on Honeycomb, and assembling would basically assemble a character, but also you can create a Honeycomb native characters. Uh, let's say your user comes in, they don't really have an NFT, right? And you want them to just create a character without really having an NFT. It would still be a CNFT, but they can convert it to an NFT if they create a native character, right? Um, so just look at the simplest scenario here first, wrapping, right? First, you would create a character model, and this is the transaction that you would send to create a character model. You would define wrapped, and we have multiple criterias, right? You can define a Merkle tree, like you can only create characters from XYZ Merkle tree, or it can be a collection, it can be a creator. You can define multiple criterias, and afterwards your users can just wrap their characters just like this, right? You would say project, you would give the users public key, and you would just tell them, you would just tell us which mint lists, which NFTs you're sending us so we can create characters out of them. So here is where things get really neat. Here's where our compression comes in, right? Some of you might not be comfortable with defining an advanced config for the Merkle tree, right? It's very, very complex, right? For example, with a canopy depth of 14, you can't specify a max buffer size of 32 and it would give you an error, right? So we've given you a basic config. You just tell us how many assets you need. You don't specify this. You just tell us how many assets you would need, and we would create the Merkle tree for you, right? We would config all of this for you. And just to jump to how much cheaper it is to create characters or create profiles, here's the cost, right? Um, if you create an on-chain profile, which is a PDA, this would be the cost. And using our compression implementation, you would pay less than basically the transaction cost. This is basically 4,100 lamports, right? So that's a cost reduction for developers of more than 1,000, which is amazing. Then to create a character again, almost 500, more than 500x cost reduction, which is unheard of before. So that's characters for you. And the really neat part is, let's say you want to reward some players if they have been sticking with you long enough, if they've completed X amount of missions or have been staking with you for a year, right? In total, like maybe they staked 1 month and then maybe they staked 11 months then after taking a break. So you fetch the character history and do the logic, right? And the character history would tell you what the event was, which mission they took part in. And then you can write logics for, hey, if this person has taken part in 50 missions, I want to give them some currency. Speaking of currencies, let's take a look at those. So we support both creating a new currency and wrapping an existing currency. For example, you want to create a new on-chain currency, you would use this, right? But if you own, for example, the USDT account on Solana, which would be amazing, but yeah, you would wrap an existing currency. So we highly recommend creating a new currency, by the way, because we can't support certain things when you wrap an existing currency, um, like when you mint a currency through us, right? When you create a currency through us, you can also mint a currency through us because it's our PDA. But if you wrap a currency, you cannot mint a currency through us. You would have to wrap it. You would have to mint it yourself. So as Karthik said, we also support the Token 2022 standard, which would let you create a permission currency or custodial or non-custodial currency, right? A custodial currency, he already explained what the difference is. So this could be used in so many ways. You could reward your users for performing certain actions. You could, let's say a dungeon needs 5,000 tokens of your currency to enter. You could burn their currency or transfer it to yourself, to your vault, and let players enter the dungeon, right? And then there's crafting. So we support both fungible and non-fungible resources in crafting. But before you can start creating those resources, you would need to issuing those resources, that is, to your players, like maybe you want to let them mine iron or bronze. You would need to create a resource, right? And this is a transaction that you would uh, send to create a resource on Honeycomb, right? Tell the authority, which would be the project authority. The delegate authority would be the resources of delegate authority, and they would be able to perform certain actions regarding the resource. And then the pair for the transaction. Now, here's the metadata, and in case of fungible resources, you would tell us how many decimals it has. And in case of non-fungible resources, you would tell us the supply and the characteristics. Again, every resource would need its own tree so it can keep track of who owns what. And then once you've done these two, you've created a resource and you've created a resource tree, you will be able to mint resources. Let's say your player goes to an iron ore and they start mining it. And every time they mine, you just fire up this transaction. And here you would just say iron ore address dot toString and just send it as a string to us and then just tell us how much you want to mine. And it would be done. And again, in case of non-fungible, you just tell us which characteristics you want the resulting resource to have out of these are the possible characteristics this resource can have. And this is the right here, 1 second, mentor resource. And this is the characteristics that the resulting resource will have, right? Again, if you want to burn a resource in result to certain in-game actions or certain app actions, you can do that easily. What's really nifty about what we've created is, let's say you want to create, you want to combine iron and iridium and some coal to create a really legendary sword, right? Here's where you do it. You create a recipe, right? And you tell us all of the ingredients, right? Well, it's fungible. You'd say iron ore address dot toString, and you would need 100 iron ore, and then you would need 50 bronze ore, and maybe you will need 5 coal. And you would also need to define a resulting resource. Just to be clear, you would need to define a resource that you would need to define a sword here, right? As a resource, and then you would also need to create a tree. But once you've done that, you would be able to say, hey, these are the ingredients, and this is basically the resulting resource, and this is the amount you will, if it's fungible, you would tell us the amount. If it's non-fungible, you would just give us the config, and they would get the resulting resource. And has a guide on how to go through the whole process of crafting using as many ingredients as you would like. We were initially limited to 3 ingredients because of some on-chain limits and transaction limits. We've gotten past that. You would need to execute multiple steps, but I've defined all of them here. Again, if any of this is unclear when you're using it, or if you have any questions, please do get in touch. Our email is mentioned right here on top in our getting started section, I think. Yeah. Just email us and I will respond to whatever query you have. So we've covered crafting. Lastly, let's cover missions. To create any mission, you would first need a mission pool, and the mission pool, what the mission pool does is that it defines what character models can go on that mission. If you want to bar certain NFTs or certain NFTs from certain creators from going in this mission, character model does that, because if you remember, you define character models based on, hey, you can create a character model from X, Y, Z, Merkle tree, and A, B, C creators, right? So any character model you define here, they will be able to take part in this mission pool's missions. And then once you've created a mission pool, you just tell us what type of mission you want. You would tell us the name, the project, and the cost. So when someone is undertaking a mission, they would have to pay this cost. You can set this to 0 and then they would pay nothing. And here's where you define the duration of the mission in seconds. So 6,400 seconds is a day. And the min XP they would need in their profile. So there's a whole leveling system and an XP system defined in our profiles. So if they don't have at least this much XP, they would not be able to take part in this test mission, right? And then you can define multiple rewards here. Let's say you want to reward them with 10 different types of currencies, and one of them is a gem, one of them is gold, and whatever you can imagine, you can do that here, and you can also reward them with XP for completing this mission. And once this time has elapsed, they can recall their character from this mission, and they would get all of this, right? And sending their characters on missions is probably one of our easiest transactions. You would just tell us what mission you want to send the characters to, the character addresses, and the authority, which is the user, and again the pair, which is optional. So you only need to send us these three, and whatever characters they have, they will be sent on the mission. When you want to recall them, you just execute this transaction, mission, character addresses, and authority, which is the user, and they would be recalled. And if they are eligible for any of these rewards, which you've specified here, they will get those rewards. So staking is where maybe you want to reward people for being loyal to your platform, right? So staking, you can use staking for that. You can use staking for all sorts of things, right? Like we're coming up with an implementation where you could use staking in conjunction with crafting, right? Maybe you have a gem and you have a sword, and you want to stake that gem in that sword so that sword becomes more powerful. Maybe it gains lifesteal, right? It gains 10% lifesteal. So we're working on that, and it will be coming in the future. But let's continue on with staking as it's implemented right now. So again, you would need a staking pool before you can before you can stake characters on that. Again, you would just say project address and currency, because the staking pool will have rewards, and this is the currency they will be rewarded in. And this currency needs to exist in your project, right? Otherwise, this would throw an error. Your admin, you would need to give the project admin's public key, and you would need to specify the multipliers. And these are the really, this is another neat part. Let's say you want a certain collection to be rewarded more than other players or other users, right? So what you would do is you would come here and you would say, hey, this is the collection address, and I want them to be rewarded. If there are two decimals, it would basically be 10%, right? This would be 10% more than the your user gets, right? And this creates his address. Whoever stakes NFTs related to this character's address, they would get 5% more. And if you stake at least one NFT, one would be, one is a bit illogical, but if you can say five, if you stake at least five NFTs, you would get like 2% more. And if you have staked with us for at least 1 second, this is in seconds, so you can specify 3600 for an hour, you would get 3% more. And you can use any combination of these or multiple creators or multiple collections to really create a staking pool that gives out rewards based on how your players interact with your game, right? You name your staking pool, you tell us how much reward they get per this duration, right? Every hour they get one token. And then the max rewards duration, min stake duration, before rewards can be claimed, right? Cooldown duration once they unstake, how long before they can stake again. And this is the start time. So let's say you define a time in the future. I say date.now plus 86,400 seconds. So this staking pool will not be usable until tomorrow. This is the start time. And if you say there is no end time, this staking pool will be usable forever. Otherwise, you can specify an end time in seconds, Unix time, and it will stop working when this end time is reached. You can also specify a lock type, whether you want the NFTs to freeze or you want to take custody of the NFTs when they are staked, right? And then you can also update the staking pool. Maybe you've defined an ending time, right? And you define an ending time that's ending a day from now, and you want to extend it by a week. You just specify the ending time here, and then you update it. You want to specify more multipliers, you can do that here easily. And you can add those multipliers to the staking pool. And then again, staking characters, same as sending your characters on mission, very simple. You just tell us the project, staking pool, character model, and character addresses. And then this is the user's key. It's not optional, so I should change that. But yeah, very simple. And then you claim staking rewards. This will claim staking rewards while the characters are still staked, and this will unstake the characters, right? So that was everything. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, feel free
For
to
those who
ask
have
any
questions,
questions.
yeah, go ahead.
If not, we can also take questions on our Discord. You can put a message in the Gen chat. You can also ask Mark and Jay from Super Team Philippines to get in contact with us as well. We're happy to help. I know it was a
Yeah.
lot of information to digest. We'll share the slides as well so that you can always review this. And I believe, Jay, there's a recording, right? So you can always
Yep.
watch it as well
Yes.
again.
Cool. I think we have some game developers here. Oh, there's one. What will use the code? Sorry, you can unmute yourself maybe. So if you have so you can elaborate more your questions. Franz.
Yeah. Could you elaborate, please? So, you don't necessarily have to be a game dev to use the code. You can be an app developer, right? You can be developing an app. Like Pooks wasn't a game. Chief showed it. Pooks wasn't a game. It's just a showcase where you own certain Pooks NFTs, and it starts giving you achievements and well, not rewards, but achievements, right? It's just a leaderboard where who owns the most NFTs gets certain achievements. Those achievements have points, and then whoever has the most points, they appear on top. So any app that you want to integrate blockchain in, right? Anything. It can be an app, it can be a game, it can be World of Warcraft clone, right? Anything. However big you want it, however small you want it. Okay, that's a great question. Let's say you know just the basics of coding, right? We are developing a GUI, a GUI, which will be web-based. You just come there. Let's say it's Honeycomb, GUI.honeycombprotocol.com. Just an example. You would go there and you would just say, I want to create a project. You would just say, I want to name the project the best projects ever, right? And then you would just create the project. It would tell you to just pay the fee and it would create the project. Same with creating a mission pool and everything else, right? So yeah, with this GUI, you would need a very basic level of coding. You would not need to be an expert in coding or even Solana to take advantage of what we're making, and that's what's so exciting about it.
Yeah, and we'll also have like some AI integration. For example, like the GPT bot to make it easier to ask questions too. And then as well as like we want to make it as easy as possible so you can just fork existing reference implementations and start building on top of those. Also, you can like, interact with the AI helper to like, change the configs and stuff, right? So just trying to make it as easy and streamlined as possible. It looks like France asked, so what did you use to create the game as a developer, Shoaib?
Um, I would need, could you elaborate a little more?
I think it's so I think the question is saying like what environment. So right now we have TypeScript JavaScript SDK, which allows you to create games and web-based game engine. But we're gonna have our Unity Godot coming here soon. Maybe Shoaib, you can elaborate more on that.
Yeah, our Rust and Unity and C# SDKs are almost finished. And once they're finished, I will be adding them to the docs. And once they're finished, you can pretty much create a game in anything. If you want a web-based game like Chief showed you, Soul Patrol and Ocean Explorers, you can create that using React. We've created those using React. And I don't know if they will be working right now because HoneyNut isn't working, but they are live right now. You can visit them. Um, if you want to create a Unity game, you just use our Unity SDK. If you want to use Godot, you can use our Godot SDK, again, launching soon. And if you just want to use C#, you just use our C# SDK.
Yeah, and we'll have HoneyNut back here online. We actually had like really good uptime for a while, and then just recently we had a big change, so we just took it down for a little bit. But yeah, here in the next day or two, it'll be back live. Cool. I think that's all the questions then, Jay.
Yeah. I think we got a few more minutes, guys. I've enabled the unmute button, so if you have questions, just feel free to unmute yourselves and ask it away. Any more questions, guys? I think we have some folks here who are actually developing games. Um, think yeah. L, do you have a question from Sovox Labs? Wait, where's my nada? We good? We good? Oh, Mark has a question. Curious about the pricing. Is there any
Yeah.
fees on top of the transaction fees being paid?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now there's no fees on Honeycomb protocol. It's free to use. There will be in the future. We're looking at like just creating some sort of we need some data, but the idea is going to be we double the base Solana transaction fee. But yeah, right now it's free to use. It'll be free for a while. So yeah, and we'll be also giving out like the idea is that like new developers and initial projects should be free for some sort of period using some sort of grant program. And then after that, like once you're like revenue generating, once you have your MVP out, your game is out, right? We want to mainly, yeah, we want to make it as accessible as possible because that's the whole point of compression is that, you know, anyone can build games on Web3 and now you can build it on Honeycomb protocol as easily as possible.
Wow. We love free stuff, guys. Definitely we'll explore this, Karthik. Now that we're on to the Radar Hackathon. So feel free to use this guys Honeycomb protocol. And I think that's it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Karthik and Shoab.
Yeah, Jay,
Our
one thing,
pleasure.
if you are using Honeycomb protocol for the Radar Hackathon, please let us know so that we can give some more technical support as well as some mentoring for your submission. We'd love to help, yeah, in any way possible. So yeah, thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Do you have like a Discord channel or Telegram we can reach you? Maybe you can
Yep, let
drop it
me
on chat. Perfect.
put it in the chat now.
Okay. And then, of course, if you can't find Karthik or show up, you can reach us from Super Team Philippines. We're open in our Telegram group and Discord. So feel free to ping Mark, me, and the rest of the team so you can get more help from our friends from Honeycomb protocol. There you go. So Shop just dropped their Discord channel. So there and their website and Twitter, of course. So guys, let's follow their Twitter or X. honeycomb_PRTCL. All right. Thank you again so much, our friends